Hey rockers, welcome back to the channel, and tonight we're going back to the year 1986 to discuss a band you may love, you may not, but they're called Cinderella. And man, let me tell you something, man, when those guys came to Peoria, Illinois, we had no idea what kind of reception we were going to get, because when they were booked to do the in-store appearance at Co-op Records, they weren't really known yet. They blew up so freaking quick, their records started selling like hotcakes. Night Songs, man, that album, at the time I heard it hundreds of times at the record store because it was selling so much we had to keep playing it to keep selling it. And we kept a pad of paper and a pen next to the cash register, and we had to physically log every sale we did. And I remember in 1986, starting in June, I remember like Bon Jovi, Slippery When Wet, when it came out, page after page of people buying that record. And I knew whenever any rockers walked in the store, they were probably going to be walking up and buying a copy of Cinderella Night Songs in 1986, because man, again, it was selling like hotcakes. Page after page of writing down these sales on cassette tape. Vinyl was still out. And of course, CDs, I believe, were coming in around that time. I could be wrong. But yeah, what happened was Bob Herrington was the owner of Co-op Records with his wife, Lynn Herrington, currently in the Quad Cities of Peoria. In the Quad Cities in Davenport, Iowa area. And they run Ragged Records and Crux Jewelry, respectively. And, of course, Ragged Records also is a cool record label. They even put out my newest album. But back to the story. Cinderella, right? These guys were formed in Philadelphia in around 1983. They emerged in around 1986 with a series of multi-platinum studio albums. To be precise, it was June of 1986. And they had so many hit singles with a lot of heavy rotation on MTV, if you guys remember that, if you were old enough. Originally more of a glam metal sound through the late 80s, and then of course they started shifting to a more bluesy rock sound in the mid 90s. I had got to tell you, at the time I wasn't really into it. I wasn't a big hair metal guy back in the day. I was always getting called hair metal because of the way I looked, but I was always into punk rock real heavily, and I was kind of a little bit more closed-minded about the genre hair metal. But these days, I consider myself a rocker, and if it rocks, I like it. I don't give a damn about labels. Who cares? If it's good, it's good, right? And we all have our own tastes, and that's that. And I'm pretty open-minded to rock and roll in general. Punk rock, metal, hair metal, whatever it is. But I'm just into it all. But as a, being called hair metal, that used to piss me off. So Cinderella, that album ended up growing on me, man. And I like Night Songs. It's a great album, a lot of hooks. And I ended up liking a lot of Tom Kiefer's later stuff, some of his solo stuff too. Really good music, and from what I've heard, really great stuff, man. Night Songs, again, was just like a great album, with Nobody's Fool being the lead single from the album. Somebody Save Me. The album sold several million copies and peaked at number 3 on the U.S. charts. The guys found that album selling double platinum. It was certified triple platinum, and John Bon Jovi actually sings backups on a couple songs on that album. The band came to keep wanting to say radio station. The band came to the record store that day, and I got to tell you, man, we did not expect this at all, because Bob had done shows in the past, a lot of in-store appearances and different things like that at his store with bands like Honeymoon Suite and the band Spirit with Randy California and all kinds of different bands, the Bullet Boys. Never knew what to expect, especially when Cinderella came to town, because let me tell you something, we had about 500 people that showed up. It was insane. We were all freaking out at the record store. We weren't prepared, but we kind of were. It was a chance to drink and smoke. Everyone kind of did that at those kind of things back then, and it was a chance to have a good time and party with some rock stars. And boy, there was a buzz in the air when people heard Cinderella was going to be doing an in-store appearance. The guys were in town because they were opening for David Lee Roth and the boys on the Eat 'em and Smile tour with Billy Sheehan and Steve Vai. And I was at the Peoria, Illinois Civic Center. I didn't end up going to the show like an idiot, even though Bob asked me why. I said, well, I know you guys had 20 or 30 tickets, and I didn't go because at the time I was kind of like not really into it. Now I feel like What an idiot. I should have gone and seen Diamond Dave and Cinderella, because I got to say, David Lee Roth was always a great showman on stage. And Cinderella, it turns out, ended up being a pretty good rock and roll band, man. You know, to put it as an understatement. The band, it was a trip. The line was going all the way from the table where the band was going to sit at, all the way through the store, out the door, down the sidewalk, down towards downtown Main Street, all the way down a side street, through an alley, and coming back up another street in front of another business. That's how many people were in line to meet Cinderella. Now, when Bob Herrington booked these guys to come do the in-store, they weren't popular yet. We were just told, hey, this band Cinderella is going to come do an in-store. And we're like, yeah, cool, man. But then we started hearing that album over and over in the store on MTV. We were like, holy hell, there's going to be a lot of people here. And there were 500 or so, just guesstimating. But there's photos that exist, and I'm going to post the photos of the band that day and that line on my community section. So if you go to that on my channel, the community section, thanks to Bob Gordon for taking the photos from Acme Comics in Peoria, Illinois, and thanks to Bob Herrington again for providing the photos and a lot of the information you're hearing right now. It was a great time, man. Great time. Like I say, we were partying a little bit. The band was going to play. They were booked to be at the store from 1 to 3 p.m. But there were so many people, these guys stayed until 4:30 in the afternoon. Bless their hearts. And even then, not everybody there got in. So there was a chance that some of you people that were at the end of the line didn't get to meet Cinderella that day. But let me tell you something. They signed a lot of women's breasts. Yes. There was a lot of people and a lot of girls and ladies, and I looked up the definition of girls, and it says it can be a female by any age, but I'll say ladies just to sound less creepy and lecherous. But back then, there was a huge groupie scene in the 70s and 80s. It started changing in the 90s, 2000s, and I don't really know how it is today. Although I saw Iggy Pop play a couple of shows in the late 2000s, and I saw him leave with ladies, definitely over 21, and there was like 4 or 5 or 6, waiting around, and he was just kind of like knew them all and left with them, and I'm not one to judge. Anyway, these girls were very friendly. They really liked the band. The band came in the building, came walking down the sidewalk, and the girls started giving them letters, like they had pre-written these letters that they would put in envelopes and hand to the guys from Cinderella. Well, a couple of the guys, I gotta admit, I can't remember which guys, but after the autograph session was over, they gave me some of these letters, and I'll give you more information on what was in those letters in just a second. Let me get to that part of the story. So the guys are walking down the sidewalk, girls are handing them letters and envelopes, and they're excited. Everyone's like, woohoo! Everyone's screaming because they're excited, right? They come and sit at the tables and drinking some beers. A couple of the guys in the band were under 21. Yeah, man, it was 21 drinking age limit in Peoria, Illinois then, and a couple of the guys were underage. Now, let me tell you, they did show up on time at 1 o'clock, right? But their road manager told us, sorry, but the drummer, Fred, he's going to be late. He's dyeing his hair. I thought, that's so classic for a hair rock band. Now, I don't know if they consider themselves hair rock, so no disrespect intended to Cinderella whatsoever. If they don't go by hair rock, then that's fine with me. I'm thinking they probably don't, if I had to guess. I'm sure some of you know. Leave a comment. Please subscribe to my channel, guys. Help me out. Please leave a comment and like it if you will. I appreciate every one of you guys. So the band came. They walked in, sat at their places. They're signing a lot of breasts. They did. They signed a lot of breasts. It's funny. We were tripping because we were partying, and Bob reminded me that a lot of these in-store appearances were a lot of partying going on, like I think I said earlier. I got to tell you, it was trippy because I was the guy working the counter while they were in the store. Bob Gordon, I think Russell Hopkins, the late great Russell Hopkins, I might have been working there at the time, I don't remember, but we were having a good time. Everyone was having beers, smoking cigarettes at that time in the store. It was a very relaxed place to work. I gotta say, Bob Herrington is a great person, and he was just a good dude all around. What else? The dudes, they looked really cool, man. The photos you're going to see posted on the community section of this video, you'll see Tom Kiefer, all in black, all black hair, black shades, black shirt, black belt, black leather pants. Yeah, he looked like the perennial rock star. He looked really cool, man. Of course, drummer Fred had his afro, black, cool looking rock and roll afro. The guitar player, Jeff LeBar, He would have this cool ass glittery black shirt on that I wanted real bad. And he had a cool blue scarf on to match. God, what is this, a freaking fashion video now? It's fashion with bloody mess. Stick around for, well, never mind. Anyway, the bass player, Eric Brittingham, he looked cool. He was like the opposite of Kiefer. He was actually in all white, long white hair, long sleeve white shirt. These guys looked badass, man. They walked through the doors smelling and looking like rock stars, and they signed a lot of breasts. Yeah. Anyway, they got done signing. It took forever, but they did stay extra time, like I say. Instead of 1 to 3, it was 1 to 4:30. And afterwards, when everybody cleared out of the store, the guys were allowed to like roam around and pick out whatever music they wanted to take with them. And they were given free posters and Co-op Records t-shirts from Bob Herrington. And I remember they all had some very diverse taste in music. I was surprised. A lot of blues, rock and roll, stuff that wasn't either one of those things, but I can't remember specifics. But it was cool because I got to wait on them and pick out whatever they wanted from our glass display cases. And they all took cassette tapes, and they were all stoked, just like you or I in a record store, like kids in a candy store, but of course with rock and roll. The guys started walking around because everyone was loosened up from a beer or two, the 3, 4. They weren't partying real heavy because they had a show to do. But 2 of the guys, and damn it, I can't remember who they were. 2 of the guys came up to me and started introducing themselves, and they were very friendly. I don't remember which guys, but they said, "Hey man, do you want these?" And they proceeded to hand me the letters that these naughty girls, really, and I with a capital N, had written them, you know, preconceived, or not preconceived, but these pre-planned actions put into envelopes and craftily handed to these band members. And they said, "Yeah, we get dozens of these at every show." I go, "Really?" And the dudes go, "Yeah, man, there's some phone numbers for you." As if I was going to call them and have any luck at that age with any girls, because, you know, they wanted that Cinderella look. And at the time, I didn't look like Cinderella, guys. So I wasn't going to call these girls and be a creep. But it was so fun because I shared these little mementos of naughtiness with all my friends, and everyone got a kick out of them. I really regret that I don't have those letters today. That was a long time ago, and I've like moved a million times, lost stuff in fires, sold stuff, given stuff away. And I believe I gave those to a friend of mine. I don't remember who, but they were very entertaining, very vulgar, and very more than suggestive. Like, "Hey, after the show, give me a call. Here's what we're going to do." And some of them had photos. It was crazy. And like I say, they gave me a handful, like 3 or 4 of these letters. And we just got a kick out of reading them. Not judging none of those girls. Hey, man, everyone seemed to be over 18, 19, 20 years old, even over 21. It was all, I was 20 myself at the time. It was 1986. This was 39 years ago. And I'm only telling you the story of what happened that day. The truth and nothing but the truth. So help my memory. And Cinderella rocked, man. I heard that night at the Civic Center. But of course, me being the dumbass that I was sometimes, I didn't get to go see Cinderella. But what are you going to do, man? The guys were cool. They ended up taking off, getting out of there, doing their thing. And I never really thought I'd be doing a video talking about Cinderella. But thank you to Bob Herrington for the memories. And I thank you guys for sitting here listening to this little tale of Cinderella coming to the record store. That was such a cool day, man, you know. And I appreciate you guys being here. Catch you next time with some more rock, punk, metal, and curveball stories at Bloody F Mess Official. Rock and roll, man.